All right.
I should probably try and get Dan Franks on again.
Oh,
Talk about what's going on.
yeah. Prior to the
Virtual.
award,
Yeah.
and not the award, the podcast movement.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, looking like a pro here, and this is the old Mac Mini that just runs Skype, but that's about it.
Mm.
Trying to change the desktop background. Well, we're already live, but hey, everyone, welcome to the New Media Show. My name is Todd Cochran. I have all my senses today, Rob.
That's good.
At least I think
that probably means that you don't have COVID. That's good.
At least I think I have all my senses, and I do have a large Red Bull today.
Of course.
It's early in the morning. This is breakfast, so...
Breakfast of champions. There you go, Todd.
Horrible. Absolutely horrible breakfast. But anyway, wow. So it's been forever since we were on together.
I know, boy.
But I did have, so we don't forget, I have 3 topics. We have the Adam Curry interview. We've got the podcast awards. We've got an article that we've been basically, every once in a while someone drags us into a discussion. And I want to make sure that we cover it. It's about ad tech. So I want to save that for later because we've talked about ad tech a lot.
So some article mentioned us that I didn't see?
They didn't mention us, but Rob, your coworker, mentioned it.
Rob's not a controversial figure at all.
And and I posted on our tweet, I don't want to start the conversation now, but on New Media Show, I said, I think you'll find that at Libsyn and at Blueberry are very pro listener privacy. Why has at Geek News and at Podcast 411 been speaking out since like forever on ad tech, attribution, etc.? It's a serious issue. Podcasting for Rob and Todd is the last bastion of privacy. So anyway, that was my tweet back, but we can talk about it here a little bit later. But let's talk about the Adam Curry interview. What did you listen to it?
Yeah, I did. I tried to catch up with it, listen to most of it earlier this morning. So was trying to get prepped. I figured he probably mentioned stuff that we might want to talk about a little bit more. But I mean, it was the conversation was really what I thought it would be. I mean, he was talking about his Open Directory project, but this is about trying to preserve the integrity and the original intent of why podcasting started to begin with, right? And that's an open medium. And trying to maintain that.
Yep. Speaking of which, tomorrow is my 16th anniversary in podcasting.
Congratulations.
So, so we haven't been around very long, but we've been around a little while.
No, we haven't. We don't have any gray hair or lost hair along
lost hair. So let's, going back to that, Adam is, man, I tell you, it's, when you interview him, you really got to be dialed in and listening. And thing is, here's the key. If you don't listen to Adam a lot in this specific topic, some people probably were going to get lost in that conversation. So I was really trying to drag him back as much as I could. And as much as you can control Adam on a conversation, to try to control him on a conversation and keep the topic focused. So people would because he goes right in deep, and most people, what the hell is he talking about? They have no context.
Right.
So I kept trying to bring context back to the conversation with him, and you will follow that conversation fine. But if someone that is new in podcasting listens to that conversation, they're going to say, "What the hell are they talking about?" And so I really, really tried hard to bringing him back to, why is this important, and why is this, what you're doing is needed. And I think really my ultimate takeaway from this too is he is thinking much bigger. This is phase one, is getting the index. I've had responses already from the PodFriend folks that built that new tool for PodFriend off of his index directory, which is a PWA that's, it reminds me, here we are in 2005 of innovation again.
Right.
And maybe not innovation. This is a kind of a cool tool. I don't know. Maybe we'll show it on the website here in a minute. But I think that the takeaway from me is that we now have some developer excitement in this. And this is big because you and I
certainly can be, right?
You and I have pounded our heads against the wall wanting certain things and largely meet resistance. Or, yeah, we're going to do this, and nothing happened. So just like this PodFriend guy said, thanks for the kind words about PodFriend on the show. The website bug has been fixed. Also, when PodFriend is a bit further ahead and developed, let's make those 3 tags happen. So here's a guy that understands, and I replied back, those 3 tags I talked about, we don't need the app developers to do them. We just need them to start getting adopted by other podcast hosts. And if we can push this ahead with his agenda, and what was I talking about? Closed caption tag, the transcript tag,
And over time, what the app developers will do is they'll slowly start to adopt those tags, and hopefully that'll push this forward.
But you look at the tags that Blueberry's had for years.
Right.
And one of the guys sent me a private note. He said, those are fantastic. How come they've never been adopted? I said, it's because Blueberry put those tags on the marketplace, and because everyone is so worried about their sandboxes, no one else adopted them. So we're going to adopt them. I'm like, oh my God. It's like I fell over because this is the first time someone has talked about even using those tags. And I would be happy to convert those tags to podcast index tags. It's whatever we want to do, because no one else has adopted the doggone thing. So, and for those of you that don't understand tags is just basically an extension of RSS that gives us metadata, tells us something.
Well, Todd, I mean, what we may be seeing here is beginnings of more of a new technical organization podcast. Maybe I've been pushing for this at the Podcast Academy, but maybe it needs to live outside of Podcast Academy. And if Adam is willing to take that charge on, to be that funnel organization or that funnel entity that takes these ideas and builds them into a new namespace spec or something like that, I think that may be a good path to go.
Adam's 56. I'm 56. I'm not in any time thinking about retiring.
No, I'm not either.
But some people, Adam is like looking, what's my exit strategy 10 years from now? And Adam's source of income right now is his show. He doesn't do a show. He doesn't have a source of income. So, yeah, he'll get Social Security and whatever investments he's had, if he's lucky enough to make investments. But he's had, a couple of divorces. So, that doesn't ever end well financially. So I think, and I'm not, and they've formed a company, and I am not against any organization making money. And I think if it's structured, and I think they've structured it correctly if we need, first of all, he says, we got to pay for the servers now. We just got to keep, we got 7 boxes running. We need enough money just to keep to keep the servers running. Because contrary to what people think, it does cost money to run stuff.
It does.
something may be free, but there's something that's, there's a bill associated with anything that you go to online, and running these index pieces I understand it. We run our own. We understand. I got 30 or 40 servers running, so people tell me you got 30 or 40 servers. Yeah, we got 30 or 40 servers running at Blueberry. And
it's actually not that much, really. You guys must be pretty efficient.
Well, we run big Amazon instances,
Right.
and that does not come cheap. Every time they buy a 3-year contract on an Amazon instance, I go, holy crap. What was that purchase on the credit card? And you're hearing a $20,000 bill go out the window,
Yeah, I built my own hosting platform for streaming and all that stuff back in the early days, and I had 4 co-located. I was just taking care of a handful of shows.
So
it's great.
And thank God we contract the CDN. If I had to run that, forget it. But anyway, I think really here, the gist of this is Adam, like you and I, are worried about the indie podcasters and their ability to make money. He gave me, did you follow what he was saying about 1 million listener hours and so much 1% of donations off those million of listening hours equals this much money?
Mm-hmm.
Did you follow that? And I was kind of like, oh, so a lot of the Bitcoin type folks are hitting him up, and he says he's inundated, and he's all trying to make sense of it. But here's okay. Oh, I'm just gonna say this. Fuck the man. We can do this, Rob. Adam can do this. If we can't get paid, from advertisers, and Spotify's not going to give us a penny for having our content on their website, then we, the content creators, if you're not advertising your show, that's fine. And if you are, it's fine. But we as a community need to figure out how to make independent podcast creators whole, how to make them money. And I attribute it to basically take mama to dinner money, take car payment money. And Adam is like, no, we're going to go bigger than that. And I'm cool. Well, let's start small. Let's get podcasters take mama to dinner, or take the partner to dinner money. And if you don't have a partner, please don't take that the wrong way. Take yourself to dinner. And then let's get you car payment money. Let's get you $500 a month in your pocket to pay your car payment.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's get your house payment. Right. So he's got some ideas. I'm excited, and it may turn into nothing.
Yeah, I mean, there's market forces in play that could put a pause in this, but I think if we can coalesce or collate the community as much as possible, there's power in numbers.
Right? Yes,
and I think that's the key to making anything like this work, is trying to pull together as many podcast creators can into this, because there is power in numbers, and if like we've been saying for years, there's not a lot of duplicated audience across podcasts. I mean, they may have small audiences, but when you sum it all up, there's a lot of people listening to independent podcasts. So, and it may not necessarily entirely, this isn't always 100% about just the podcast too. I mean, the methodologies that we're talking about apply to any podcast.
True.
So, it isn't 100% us against them.
Right. But it is a lot.
Yeah. I mean, to some degree it is. And that's the competitive market, right? Independent creators created this medium. Really, at the end of the day, that's who it is. And it's up to us to turn it into a medium that works for us. But that's going to take us working together to
That's right.
answer some of these questions.
So I think too, I've done yeoman's work and for years and trying to get advertisers to recognize the smaller show. And
Right.
they just won't. And it really, at this point, pisses me off,
Well, what
that
will, Todd, is that it's all about asking the right question. What will get the and maybe it's not through the old traditional models that we've seen. Maybe that there's a new model that needs to be come up with here.
right. So Adam has mastered the, you know, value for value. You like the program, you send us a few bucks.
Yeah.
And they send him big bucks. And he's able to live and pay his bills. And they do
Yeah.
very well on that show. And it goes up and down, but it's not ever guaranteed. But it's based upon doing another episode.
Well, I would love it if Adam would do a couple of webinars on his system, right?
You just
and
have
how
to
that works.
you just have to listen to the show. Figure
Well,
out.
yeah, but I'm sure that
Yeah.
there's tips that he can give on what he's seeing in the numbers
Yeah.
that can give you a clue on what's working and what isn't working. But it would be awesome to share that community, because I do agree. I think he is kind of living at the cutting edge of that value for value relationship, and we've been talking about this for years
Yeah.
about building on the value of the audience, and not from a traditional advertising perspective, because in a lot of ways traditional advertising broke. It doesn't work as well now. Granted, and podcasting is a little bit of an example of that. You think about the advertising that does work best in podcast. It's the testimonials. It's the trusted connections
Right.
between host, product, and the audience. You can have those three prongs connected at a trust level, then it all works, which is a different model than traditional advertising has been built on. Traditional advertising is built on driving a fear reaction, driving some sort of a deception, right? It hasn't always been, I was trained a marketer, went to college. I spent my whole career working in marketing, and I think that's the biggest we've seen with the internet is that we're getting closer and closer to the needs of the audience product, right? So we're getting direct feedback, getting direct understanding of the product, but for the whole thing to work, there has to be trust. And that's the power of this medium. And I also believe that's key to what Adam is doing. Adam is building trusted relationships with his audience.
So
And it's all based on trust.
going back to models, I look at YouTube.
Mhm.
We do YouTube Live. We got 8 people watching on YouTube Live right now. We've got 6 or 7 people watching on Facebook Live.
Right.
There is a method in YouTube, if you are of a certain level, if you have become privileged on YouTube, that
Right.
when you're live, they can donate to your show. They can donate right when you're live. They can send you a cash donation.
Right.
Facebook doesn't allow anyone to send us a cash donation.
Right.
While we're doing this. So the thought process continues to move along, and Adam's thinking is, okay, Todd and Rob says something profound. Someone says, "Oh man, that's that's life changing for me. That's worth $20." And they can easily send you and I $20 for that thought moment. And if we had it happen to one person, it could have happened to 100 or 200. But today, there is no easy way in any app. You're all listening. You all know that we've got a PayPal address at newmediashow.com. But that requires effort. You had this fleeting moment that said, wow, that was freaking valuable. Let me give Todd and Rob $25. If they could do it right there, boom, then that changes the dynamic of engaged support by an audience. But if you force them to have to go over to newmediashow.com, find a PayPal link, click on it, and if they're on their mobile, in their car, it's not going to happen. So we just need to, this is the type of things he's talking about in talking to Stripe and other folks, trying to figure out a way to help podcasters earn money on their shows. And maybe it goes into a collective. I mean, who knows? There's all kinds of models.
Well, and something as simple as, you donate to the show, you get access to a marketplace of discounts on product and services that are targeted to that particular listener audience, right? Maybe to this show, if a person donates to us, maybe that person that donates gets access to a page that gives them access to getting 50% off of hosting or off of microphones, or 30% off microphones, something. That's part of what we're saying about the value, but it's also value on the content too, right?
Well, yeah.
So
now, Adam doesn't do. Adam gives you a title,
right?
It's you don't get
that.
you don't get a product, but you give $1,000 a show, you become a knight. A knight of the No Agenda Roundtable.
Right. So maybe there's some new models here that we need to explore. That maybe are hybrids of that we have today, but maybe not push this industry, which I think to some degree is happening today, down the models of the old model, because that's what the buyers understand, right? And though I think that the buyers are starting to evolve, but I don't think they're being given other options either.
Yeah.
So, I think pulling together an organization like what Adam is trying to do may be good. Maybe there can be a funnel of new advertising models or advertising relationships, or different types of ways we can present supporters of our program to drive value to the listener, the advertiser. There must be something else that we can do. We don't have to keep living in the advertising world of the 90s.
Right.
Yeah.
So, this guy that I'm getting some tweets right now.
Are you now?
So this guy that's High Five RPG is apparently, he's part of the founder of Sound Profitable, part of the Pod News Network. So, who has lots of opinions on podcast ad tech. He said in my response, I invite at Geek News and Podcast 411, who blocked me, to collaborate on privacy solutions for all listeners. If you run a major podcasting company and you're proud about speaking about privacy, you're not doing enough. Well, this guy is clueless. Speak less, do more.
You have to do both.
I'm going to say, I understand why Rob blocked you. We live this every day. Who does this guy think he is? Making accusations. Making statements.
So what's the full context of what he's saying here?
I'm not being nice. He said, speak less, do more, about listener privacy.
So what does he think we should do?
Do more.
More of.
Do more.
Do more of what?
That's it. We have to do more. Do you think I'm going to call up mid-roll and say I'm concerned about you doing, again, and I don't know if they're doing this, I'm concerned about you doing attribution and you should stop? Do you think that's going to work? No. Do more. We're doing more. We do for our companies and we do for our listeners. what we feel is important on listener privacy. My God. This guy.
Oh, okay. Okay, I see his post here. He's talking specifically to Rob Wolf.
And me.
And okay.
Yeah.
So
Feel free.
talking about it isn't good enough. What does he expect us to do? All we can do is try and convince the community to not embrace it.
So, it also, I see individuals in the space right now who are trying to force their way. They're trying to invade and push into the space and try to exert will.
Mhm.
And it's an interesting dynamic, especially seeing who some of these individuals are associated with. Everyone has agendas, ladies and gentlemen. My agenda is to get you to use Blueberry Podcasting. Rob's agenda is to get you to use Libsyn. But at the same time, we're both podcasters. I think that's what makes us different.
Yeah. Well, we've been in this medium for a long time and have seen its ups and downs and its roundabout. People coming in and out of it, trying to take advantage of it, not looking out for the community.
Yeah.
We've just seen it, and we recognize it when it happens because we've seen it so many times.
So I got distracted, but going back to Adam's whole discussion and what they're doing with the index, I think that, be a fly in the wall. Get on their Mastodon chat server and go in there and just kind of read. They've got stuff going on in GitHub too. So if you're a dev, you kind of know where to find that. If you're an app developer, if you're a Marco, if you are a Pocket Cast developer, or, some of you know these developers. Some of you that listen to this show are friends of people that develop podcasting apps. Rob and I, we do our best to reach out to people and try to get them engaged. But if you, and I don't care if you run a major company, I implore upon you, please reach out to your contacts with people that you know in this space, especially on the developer side. We can make some stuff happen here. And again, no agenda on my part, but just trying to advance the space. And the major constraint on any initiative that we've ever tried to push forward in the podcasting spaces, we've never been able to get the app developer community in the make podcast app on the same page or coalesced to do something.
Right.
So
how does it happen?
No. So if they want to help, see, app developers, as we learned from the discussion with Pocket Cast, Rob, they serve listeners. They don't serve podcasts.
Right.
So as Adam said, we have to figure out a way to incentivize the app developers in order for them to make some money on the backside, not against the listeners, but by helping the podcasters. And as a base, we all rise together.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, if the podcasters are better equipped, then there's a better likelihood that those listeners are going to benefit from that too. So there is a beneficial relationship.
Yeah.
That sometimes I think commercial interests sometimes go sideways on understanding what's good for the listener.
Right.
And I think that's where we've run into the issues is that the app developers haven't wanted to support capabilities that is violating privacy of the listener or
right.
Taking advantage of the listener for commercial interest purposes. And I think that's where most friction has been over the years. So that's not to say that there aren't other areas that collaboration can happen to enhance the listener experience.
So Mike in the chat room says, please, please, please define a podcasting app. Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeart, Deezer, Pandora are not podcasting apps. They are podcast listening platforms.
Right.
And they are never going to adopt any of this stuff that we're talking about. They will never do it. Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeart, Deezer, Pandora will not. They're not. This is not. We're talking to the Pocket Cast. Talking to. Well, let me
Overcast,
let me
talk to-
let me go over and give you just a few.
Mhm. And quite honestly, if we find that what we're doing with the more or the smaller list platform is actually pretty compelling, we may see the other bigger
Right.
platforms adopt it, but it won't be. They won't adopt it unless there's some sort of a commercial benefit to them.
So here's just a few. Podcast Addict, Podcast Republic, Simple Podcatcher, Podcatcher Deluxe, Video Podcasters like Beyond Pod, Podkicker, Podcast Up by Player FM, Pocket Cast Podcast with a K, Audiobook Podcast Player, Lucid Pod, Castbox, WeCast, Podcast Player. That's just a few.
Yeah, there's probably 100 of them
out there. And again, if we make it, we've asked Apple. They're listening. We've asked Apple. They for whatever political reason or dev reason, who knows? They're not going to do it at this point. So,
well, though we have heard directly from people over there that it's not like they're going to be against making tag changes. I think that they would be willing to support it. I think if it made sense for them. So, I think this concept that we started out with the trying to get the industry to coalesce ideas together and then feed those ideas to these big platforms is versus the big platforms
telling us
saying that, well, we're going to change our namespace. Everybody has to adopt
right
type of an approach, taking a little more proactive approach here.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just, at this point, I think that you're right. It's if we can push it that way versus being forced upon us. And at this point, I don't even want to say forced upon us because I've already asked for some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And there's probably 100 other things out there that people want to do too.
So do you think that this is part of Adam's bigger agenda, is to pull this together?
I think he wants to advance space. As he says, it's podcasting 2.0. As we had an RSS 2.0, it's time for a podcasting 2.0. And if that RSS 2.0 isn't going to change, but within the confines of RSS that we have today, we can do a lot without breaking, feedvalidator.org. I don't know if that site's back online. It's been off for a while. We run a feed validator. There's one other major feed validator. Ours is castfeedvalidator.com.
Well, Todd, maybe we need to come up with a new podcast names, not iTunes.
I know.
Google.
Just
come up with a podcast name.
Absolutely, and I think that's
Right.
what's being worked on by the Podcast Indoc folks with Adam and his team. That because we're already talking about it. So we just, they looked at our namespace spec. The team over there's already looked at it, and I'm hoping it all gets incorporated into podcast. It could be podcast. It could say Podcast Index. It could say podcast. I'd prefer to say podcast because it would just take ownership of it.
Right, and then maybe Apple. I don't know who's going to give on this, but maybe that namespace embraces the Apple namespace inside of it somehow.
Well,
make sure that those tags are in there.
Right.
Right.
And if they choose to adopt tags, great. If they don't, But I think the advantage here is, so Rob, let's say some app, let's say they got a InstaPay type of tag put in place, that there's some sort of function that happens when, let's say it's a universal payment system. You register with podcastindex.org, all your financial information, and then listeners only have to enter their credit card information one time for all shows. And then anytime you're listening to a new media show on a specific app and it says donate, that transaction happens. They pick a number, $5, whatever, 10, 15, or other amount, and hit send. And then and again, I'm just talking off the top of my head, and I'm not saying this is going to happen. Let's say Podcast Indoor says, okay, we're going to take 10% of that for processing fees, and we're going to give 90% back to the individual podcaster, and that transaction happens seamlessly. Yeah. If some app implemented that, what app do we promote on this show?
Right.
We promote that app.
Right.
Listen to this show on that app.
Right. Right.
And while you're listening, you can donate to the show.
Right.
Now, we might get some folks that are listening on Apple Podcasts to say, man, I'd like to donate to this show. The only way I can do it easily is do it over on this app. Let's go. Let me try this app that Todd and Rob are talking about.
Right.
This is about us taking back control of the space.
Right. And then who knows, Apple may support that tag.
Right.
At some point, because it's beneficial to them to do so.
Yeah.
Right. Keep people from not going listening over here, keep listening over on the Apple app. Yeah.
So I can only sit here and advocate. I'm not a developer. I'm just an ideas guy. Rob, you're an ideas guy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to write a single line of code. I can read an RSS file. I can use tech, but
yeah, I've broken my fair share of RSS feeds. How about you?
So, I guess this is where we're at with this. So, we kind of killed a dead horse.
Right.
But podcastindex.org, go over there. If you're a dev, get involved, please. If you know a dev, tell them to get involved. And maybe a year from now, we'll have something to show for this.
So
and donate.
What is the process? Does Adam have a process for people to kind of put their name in the hat on this project, or get involved, or to contribute somehow?
It's all on podcastindex.org on how to get involved. And, it's dev-centric right now, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And, here's the bigger it gets, though, the more it's, like trying, because everybody comes in with their whack idea, trying to reinvent the whole space. No, we're not doing anything. We're staying in the confines of RSS. This initiative, their initiative is building within that constraint.
Yeah.
At least I hope it is. And not going off and doing some weird implementation that no one will ever implement. Hey, maybe don't want to implement it anyway. It's speculation on our part at this point. So, hey, I just want to as we transition here, I just want to let you know we appreciate you. If you're a listener of this audience, we definitely appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for staying subscribed. Thank you for listening to Rob and I's rants. And please, if you're not subscribed, subscribe and tell other podcasters about this. I don't think, I'm going to be a little bit biased here. I don't think anyone else does a better podcasting show than us. I'll say our show's even better than the feed.
You are brazen.
Yes, I am.
Wow. Okay. Well, I think there's a big difference in the show that we do compared to everybody else. And that's been done intentionally for many years. We don't prep for the show. We just get up and we talk about whatever, and if it gets us into trouble, we deal with it.
That's right.
But I think a lot of people understand why we do this. And believe me, we don't have an overinflated ourselves here. I mean, there's definitely many other people in this medium that have as viable of ideas and skills as we have. So
we are not.
Believe me,
we are not dictators, or we are not the messiahs. We're just two dudes.
Right. So
two dudes that love podcasting.
We just want to throw some ideas out for people to think a little differently about things and not get caught up so much in the latest swirl storm in the medium, right, around monetization and commercialism, which tends to drive people in directions that is not necessarily always good for the medium. Yep. I mean, it may seem like it's good for the medium, but given our history, we've seen things come and go over the years, but at the end of the day, it's the independent podcast what is the root of this medium, and we want to keep it that way.
Yeah. And I think, too, is that, yes, we have some strong opinions, and, even during the interview with Adam, I said, listen, Blueberry has a directory, we have an API, but I'm a commercial entity. And my insurance policy is part of the reasoning I put the system. I didn't build it necessarily totally for an insurance policy. I bought it for the day that Apple shut off the API, and I would say, "Hey, look over here,"
yeah.
And guess what? Adam built a non-commercial one.
Right.
So,
well, if you look at other media types out there, there hasn't been a culture of protecting the integrity of the medium.
No.
And I think that's what's different about podcasting. I think that's what Adam is really tapping into here is the culture of why this medium exists to begin with.
Yep.
And I know we've talked about it many times on this show. And I think there's a lot of people out there, a lot of new people to the medium that don't really understand why we positions that we take, because I think the general thought is that progress correlates to money and commercializing, right? Because that's what we've seen with all the other media, right? The music, TV, and movies and social media is that's been what everybody focuses. But podcasting doesn't have to follow that trajectory. I think we have an opportunity to do something unique here.
I think as long as I breathe, I'm going to fight for the continued openness of the space and yeah, we love those commercial entities, though. I love having my show everywhere.
Fine, they're welcome to be here.
Absolutely.
But for people in this medium to think that that's what it's all about is mistake. I mean, it's not what it's all about.
Yep. So let's talk a little bit about appreciating your audience.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of relates to the podcast award.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about the last show, but we had a great award ceremony. I mean, it was pretty incredible when we have, as Mike Dell told me, he says, I looked through that list and he said, I only saw one show that I knew. And he says, and that's a good thing. And, but I think and I listened to some of these winning shows because, again, I hadn't heard them either. But I think the thing that struck me the most and really makes me the most proud is that the Adam Curry People's Choice Podcast Award went to a podcast that is immensely popular. I had no clue. How Did I Get Here with Jay of Day 6? And I listened to the podcast, and it really kind of blew me away. And it definitely shows, number one, diversity in this space. Whoops, here, let me show it up. Diversity in the space and cool, hip vibe. Dive Studios did very well. I think they won 3 categories, plus podcast People's Choice. So these folks did really, really, really good. And again, the caliber of content And it's kind of funny because the up to this point, the sports category, the fantasy footballers have dominated People's Choice for the last couple of years.
Mhm.
And but there was 2 shows from Dive Studios that made it into, actually maybe even 3. Let me go down and double check. No, only 2 that made it from Dive Studios. But I think we had, and the acceptance speeches were fantastic and on point. And but we are going to retire the government organizations categories last year. We didn't have enough shows participate to even fill the category, so I'm taking input on a new category for next year. But yeah, it was. I think it was a good
I don't
event.
think that there's as many government podcasts, right? I think a lot of them have been shut down.
Yeah. But did have a little bit of technical difficulty right at the beginning of the awards ceremony. I had forgotten a couple of things about wiring the studio up. And you want to see here's the thing to save my ass, brah. And what I'm
Really?
showing is a double-ended male mini jack cable.
Mini jack, that's what I was noticing.
This saved the evening because I was on the International Podcast Day. I got everything all set up, and I'm getting ready to stream, and we flipped the switch, and Dave comes back because I can't hear no audio.
Oh.
Over on your National Podcast Day. So when you and I are talking, no problem. It goes through the audio system and it feeds the machine I was using for StreamYard. It was all good. But I forgot when I do a playback of a pre-recorded audio program.
Oh, off of your laptop?
Off of the TriCaster. It's got this place to play to play. I forgot that doesn't get routed into so I was left here dumbfounded. Now, in retrospective, all I would have had to have done, because when you're in a panic, you forget, right? All I would have had to do is, NewTek is this cool thing called NDI audio. And I could have just reached over here and really in 30 seconds, changed the audio input to this computer, and I would have been done. But in your panic, you're like, what do you do? Here's this professional podcaster that's looking like a jerk off because there's no audio and he can't figure it out. And I was probably cussing a little bit. So I tried one thing that didn't work. And then I jumped up. Sometimes fate. I went over to my room and of course I have all these nice organized boxes now. And I've got a box that says mini jack. I pulled the box out, I crashed stuff around it because there was stuff in the way, and I popped the lid open. And laying right on top was this mini jack cable. I came over here, plugged
there to rescue you.
Right? If it had not been there, and I plugged it in, and boom, we were good on International Podcast Day. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm good. I'm wired. I'm dialed in. No sweat. I'm ready for the podcast awards. So we transitioned. Got everything ready for the podcast awards, and then I started the live stream. Well, I forgot that the cable, I can talk, and they can talk to me on StreamYard while over here. But you best not do that with 2 things going on because you formed a loopback loop. Oh, no. And I heard it as like, I think I got a problem. And then about a second later, I think I got a problem. I think I got a problem. And it's, and it builds upon itself, right? And I'm like, what's going on? And, in the video is running for the podcast awards. And I'm like, and my eyes are about as big as saucers. And the YouTube comments, oh, this is off to a great start.
Yeah.
I reached over and unplugged, and we were good. And hey, I'm a podcast professional. I don't need to practice.
Right.
Don't need to do dry runs. Don't need to test anything.
You got too used to winging it. Got too many things going on there.
Two, because I'm streaming to 5 locations. I'm on StreamYard, and thank God for this cable. So now I've made notes. Because I reload every year, I reload a document, and I've got notes, and it basically says at the very top, and it says, "Hey, beep, don't forget."
Do you sometimes regret having a TriCaster set up because of the complexity of it?
No, not at all.
No?
No. It actually allows, and the thing is, again, if I would have had my wits about me, instead of being pulled into panic mode, all I had to do is I literally like 3 keystrokes on this laptop, and we'd have been good all night. But when you're in panic, you're going into vapor lock, right? And so, I did have to laugh because someone during the award ceremony said, "Well, this is what happens when you do virtual." And I'm thinking to myself, I've been doing virtual for a while. I should have known better. Oh, so anyway, it continued. It went off. We did good, and everything was fine. But boy, oh boy.
But there is a lot of people that don't know about TriCaster.
Yeah.
Because I mention it to people and say, well, Todd's got a TriCaster set up, and they go, "What's that?"
Right.
So TriCaster's really fallen off of the radar of perception about how to do online
because
video stuff.
Because when I invested in TriCaster, you couldn't do everything you can do now. So
like
a lot of this stuff,
StreamYard and Zoom and all
this
these
other stuff,
platforms kind of replicate what
Sure.
the TriCaster.
Absolutely. It can't do everything it can do, but there are other software programs out there. OBS, that's what all the Twitch folks use. It's fantastic.
Wirecast.
Yeah, Wirecast. So if you ever do buy Wirecast, I got I'm an affiliate for them, so just let me know. I'll send you a link.
I mean, because most podcasters don't do multi-camera shoot, right? So it's like my setup here. I'm probably more of a traditional setup for a podcast with one camera and just funneling it into a video capture card.
But for just a little bit more money, Rob, you could have a couple of cameras set up, and you could have you can use, like I do, you can use Wowza to be able to do the multicasting. That doesn't happen with the TriCaster. I send a single stream to YouTube and a single stream to Wowza. Then Wowza sends it to 5 other locations, and Ustream is YouTube. It's on its own stream, so it sends 2 streams out. You got to have the bandwidth to do it, and believe me, I don't. Here's the dumb thing: this thing will do so much. I could have a function where I could just do like this, and it would switch. There's macros built into this system. I so underutilize.
Oh, I know you do.
The power of this
thing. You barely do any switches.
Yeah, barely. Yeah, it's
so
woo! There's a switch. Woo! Woohoo!
I mean, your setup is the kind of thing that
cuts you out.
You're seeing like NBC News use to do their live network. That's how powerful that unit that you have is.
But what's also cool is that I can be on these 2 rooms that are next to me.
Right.
The green screen room and the demo room. And I can pipe in a 2-camera. Well, I do in the demo room, I got 2 cameras. And then I can basically just get everything up and running, and I can go over there and have a laptop and actually, or an iPad, and actually do the switching between the 2 camera views and be wired in and do the same thing in the other room. And I do. So the green screen room is the same way. It's a single camera shot for the green screen room, but I can put myself in a virtual environment. And, that room needs to be a little bit bigger to do things I wanted to do, but I'm just constrained by space. But, it's pretty remarkable, to be honest with you, what is possible, and how I just don't have time to. Maybe one of the days I'll do the show from the other room,
Right. If you can get your camera back far enough from you, and a lot of people do their shows in bedrooms, which are pretty fine spaces.
Right.
If you can get the camera back further, you can stand up in front of the camera versus sitting down in front of a monitor or something like that, which kind of creates an opportunity maybe paint a wall behind your green, right? You can create this very interesting kind of full view presentation opportunity. This is something I've talked to Dan Franks about a little bit too, as he thinks about his keynote for Podcast Movement Virtual. Is like, I mean, if you think about, and I don't know, maybe we've talked about this on the show before, but if you think about what typically does at his event for his keynote, right? They're up on the stage.
Yep.
They got that big backdrop behind them that looked really cool, and there's no reason why they can't duplicate that in the virtual. It's just having their presenter have space that they can do a green screen where they can stand up in front of a podium or whatever. It can be the same type of experience. So, I've been thinking a lot about that kind of stuff too. Is there a need for that as you look at these virtual events to present a better experience versus what we've been primarily, with people like what we're doing right here, sitting behind big mics and with very small rooms and things like that, and not creating that kind of visual experience, which is what people are accustomed to at the in-person event.
So I don't, my demo room is built exactly for that, to be able to stand up.
Yeah,
and
I figured that room, it's off your left, right?
It's to my left. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And so it's basically, for those of you that want to see what I see, let me show you. See if I can bring this up bigger.
Do you have a camera in there all the time that's all set up?
It is set up and ready to go. So this is what for those of you that are watching, this is what it looks like in the other room. That's the actual.
Right.
That's a mock-up of it. Let me see if I can find. Here's what that room looks like for real.
Right. So how far back can you actually get the video?
I have the camera, like, there's a TV, because I have to be able to see it's just like hearing, you have to see yourself on the monitor. So the monitor is mounted to the wall, and then the camera is, butted really right up against the screen. So I think my distance between the camera and where that table is about 8 feet.
Oh, okay. Well, that's actually fairly close.
Yeah, so I can see now, if in the shot, if those of you are watching, the view you can see is, you can obviously see the front of the table, and you can see half, or the first set of audio boards. You can see those first two audio boards. You can't see, I know the second two, you can't see the first two. And then the green screen room, actually, here's the other view, Rob, of what the demo room, actually, is this the demo? No, this is the green screen room. That's how the green screen room looks.
Yeah, that's looking back
at the camera. Yeah, and actually, there's an actual TV behind that camera now. I ought to update some pictures here. But this is what it looks like. This is what I look like. This is what I see right now.
Right.
When we're on. So, let me see if I can find the green screen room and what it. Oh,
because I'm actually about 3.5 feet away from my, right. Actually, I had that. But
there's a product shot camera you can see.
Right.
That sits there. So those of you that are listening, oh yeah, here's an updated picture. Here's the monitor now that's in the green screen room. And actually, this is the reason I had to put the monitor there, was for the key, to be able to key the room.
Right. Yeah, because you actually painted that room.
No. Those are actual. Those are audio panels from Audiomute.com.
Oh, okay.
And we were worried about the seam, because those panels were not, but the seam is not even seen. We were worried about the seam having a keying issue.
Oh, because of the slight shade.
Well, yeah, and where those two, where they meet, there's this line, and but it did not end up being an issue. So, yeah. So
I guess it wouldn't as long as you properly lit it.
So what you see there is the box. This box, you look where I am, the box is right there. I can see this box from where I sit, and that's got the TriCaster in it, and the router and the power supply and all that stuff.
Yeah, and for those that are listening to this, I know we're not helping out very much.
Right.
You'll have to go watch the little video
Yeah, watch
version
the
of this,
video.
which you can get. Sure.
Yeah. And this is my favorite spot. This is the edit room. This is where I do the editing. And there's another TriCaster in there. So that's my old 850. So I can actually go up and do 2 different live events at once. So
are you actually using these rooms much?
yeah, this room here, I'm in this room. Well, right after the show, I'll be in there for an hour.
Gotcha.
So, but and then of course where I spend most of my day is, this is where I work when I'm here. This is
that's your office.
That's my office, yeah.
Right.
And it's the front of the building.
Mm-hmm.
So a little bit behind the scenes. Rick says, yeah, the seam could be covered by green screen tape. Yeah, we were going to use that if we needed. It turned out we did not. And by the way, I've got a 2 gallons of a green screen paint in case anybody needs any paint. And I've also...
That's a deal for you.
Yeah.
Right?
I've also... It's expensive, $80 a gallon. Also, I've got a kitchen in the back. So...
There you go.
Yeah, go back there and microwave
do you
some...
have a bed somewhere? Do you have a cot?
Hey, Rob. Now, here was the primary requirement. So let me show you. What do you see in that picture?
Yes, couch.
A couch. And believe me, yes, indeed, my couch is, that was, and I had a hard time finding one that would fit. So that's I don't know if you have a Big Lot in the area, but that's a $250 Big Lot couch.
Oh, there you go. Sure, it's really comfortable.
Hey, guess what? When you need a little nap, it's perfect.
I see you have an open 24 hours. So
yeah.
You're always.
Do you know where that came
ready
from?
To go live.
Do you know
right?
You know where that came from? When I was doing the 24-hour podcast, that was a sign I bought.
Was a sign from that.
But you know what? I could never have it in the screenshot. I could never hang it somewhere. I'd have it hanging here, but it's so bright.
Yeah.
That it blows everything out. So, yeah.
You're definitely gonna have to go watch video.
Yeah, I'm sorry, everyone. We're talking about it, so we're not being very good audio podcast hosts.
No, we're not.
So yeah, go check out if you want to see the studio. And all you have to do to get to these pictures, just real simple. You go to geeknewscentral.com/studio, and then there's a link to the library of all the images of the studio. So all you got to do is click on the main image that's on the site at geeknewscentral.com/studio. Just click on that, and that takes you to the Google Photos page with everything that shows the construction of the studio and the layout. But yes, that's, and be honest with you, this is my sister hadn't owned this building, and being able to pay her rent and getting a little bit of family discount, this would have never happened. So but I spent quite a bit of money building this thing.
Yeah, but man, looks nice too.
Yeah, I mean, we did as a disclosure, why I always promote audimute.com, AUDI, audimute.com is we did a collaboration on the soundproofing of this studio. So, if you ever decide you want some audio, these signs that, what did I show you? The signs that we have, like the new media show signs, and you can probably see here in the studio when I go, let me go to which shot is that in? Where can you see it? Okay, I can see it in this shot. So you see that sign? It's
right.
Yeah, over here.
Oh, down there.
Right, yeah, down there.
Right.
That's a panel. That's a soundproof panel. Yeah, and they sell those too. So you just send them your album art, and and
Those are
they
kind of expensive, though. I think you
Yeah.
say that's $100 or something.
Oh
like that.
no, that one's probably that's a big one. It's probably 250. But here's the thing. You can, if mama doesn't want you putting up panels, okay, Rob, so let me look at your background.
Yeah, I've got a new media show one up there too, but
Yeah.
that's a $30.
So, you haven't panelized your whole space.
No, I have not.
No, and most podcasters can't do that, because it's a room in their home and their significant other is like, what are you doing?
Right.
And it's just like the panels behind me. Can't get it right. That's that green back there is an audio panel and it's printed. So it starts out, I want to show this, and I'm sorry for those of you listening. I tried to describe it the best I can.
Yeah, I'm just using regular canvas picture frame for my panels.
So let's see if I can get this to go up.
And it seems to work okay.
Oh, I'm on the wrong. That was dumb. So let's go ahead and raise the camera up. You can see how that starts dark green.
Yeah.
Now watch as I go down, see how it lightens up.
Yeah.
So that was by design. Start with a darker green and then go lighter. But it's really about angles here. And my challenge has always been to be honest with you, if I could have knocked this wall out and moved the camera's 2 feet further out, it'd be a better view. But I'm purely constrained by camera distance. And, the camera here my fingers right now are 3 inches from the camera lens.
Yeah, I've got long arms too.
And how close are you to your lens?
I'm probably a foot and a half away from my lens.
See, you're farther out. I'm 3 inches away.
Yeah, I'm about 3.5 feet away.
And this view is a little bit better. This camera has a little wider from that perspective, and this is a view you guys don't see very much because then you can't see Rob. But
cut out of the picture again.
Yes, cut out. But anyway, these panels are, the thing that was truly remarkable was, and again, for those of you listening, what I'm showing a picture of here is these panels going up. And we had those panels designed, and they just he had a staple, one of those air guns, boop, 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 and put pin. And those are actual sound panels and printed to spec. So again, you can see all these images. And so I've got some extras of those if we ever run into one or something, run into the wall. But again, this was all designed per the designer that the team at Audimute that we worked with.
Yeah. Well, plus also you didn't talk about all those lights too. So you have the
row
of lights.
Yeah.
They're pointed down, and I've got lights pointed at me in here too. It can be a little blinding at times, which I'm sure it is for you as well.
Yeah, and in what you can see, if I bring this up, is hanging lights can be very expensive. Right. So what I used there, and for those of you that are watching this and those of you who are listening, is I went to Home Depot, and I did this in my studio in Hawaii, so I knew this trick. It's about 2 more feet above the suspended ceiling to the 2x4s for the roofing joints, or 2x6s, whatever they are. And I bought basically water pipe, 3-foot water pipe pieces that was threaded. And on either end of that, they have stanchion. So this is nothing new. People have built like step handles, and basically what I've done there is hung that on C channel, and where the lights hang on to is nothing more than a $27 C channel from Home Depot. And so what I really did there is I probably got $500-$600, maybe $500 in total cost to hang that. I save myself $4 or $5 because if you go out and buy a commercial track system, it's very, very expensive. So this is a poor man's way of hanging lights. But you have yours on tripods, right?
Yeah, I have my lights tripods. I have one right next to my camera, and then I have two at the ends of my large desk here. So they kind of come at me from angles on the side. Yeah.
So anyway,
but I still have a shadow I can get rid of. That's because of this massive microphone I have.
Yep. But yeah, here's another view. This is looking over the shoulder, and that's what it looks like. So there's no money there at all.
No, not at all.
And most of the stuff came from Hawaii. So the only thing really we added was computer monitors. And the decorations, I bought a lot at Dragon Con and collected stuff all over the place. So yeah, my little hideaway. No one's been in here since about February. So so we talked about Adam Curry. We talked about the podcast awards. Here, we got a few minutes left. So there was let me see if I can find this this link. Let's search. It was an article it's over on Amplify Media. And it says the host read ad dominates podcasting, but ad tech is rapidly changing that. And this is a discussion between Steve Goldstein or maybe it's just him. And he talks a lot in here about ad tech and what's happening with ad tech. And he says, who's the person that's responding to this? It says B. Who is B? Back in the early days, we sat down to dumb this down. Who did they sit down with? Oh, they sat down with Brian Barletta, who spent time in the ad tech, and he's the one that's launching the Sound Profitable newsletter. And so we hear the term attribution an awful lot these days. Let's crack that open. And Brian says its ability to match an exposure of an advertisement to the desired action, like purchasing a product, to gain interaction with a potential customer on the digital side. They also capture clicks. But something they got wrong in here was they were talking about pixels.
Oh, the whole
and back to pixels for a moment. Companies like Podtrac and Chartable are using them. Where are the pixels inserted? Now, Podtrac is not using pixels.
No.
Chartable is using pixels. If you're using a prefix URL like Podtrac does, it's added right before the URL where the podcast episode is. It means that when your device goes to play that episode or download it, first pings Podtrac and sends the information they need. Then they redirect back to your device to get the episode. No. They redirect to the media file at its host to get the episode. Right. That's how they know how many downloads have occurred. It has nothing to do with pixels. He asked the question back to pixels from companies like Podtrac and Chartable using them. Where are the pixels inserted? Podtrac is not using pixels.
The only place that they could be using pixels would be embedding it into a web player.
In the web player, on a web page.
Right.
So
that's been the whole technology.
Yeah, he gets that. He gets that wrong. And
a lot of this pixel track stuff is almost like a server side thing too.
Yeah.
That's another way it's implemented.
They're using pixel tracking on websites for attribution. So in other words, you go to the website, you see the ad, you click through, you go over to the website, or you go there just manually, and you've been on the podcaster's website. Then they see those two have mapped.
Right.
We do not allow
track activity on Apple.
But what that requires is your host to, well, two things can happen. It could be website, advertiser's website, or if the host is allowing the sharing of IP data, raw IP, then they can look at the raw IP that requested the media file, and they can look at the raw IP data going back to the advertiser's website to do attribution that way. I don't know if Podtrac is sharing IP data with attribution sources. We don't do that, and neither does Libsyn.
Right.
Both of our companies have adopted global GDPR. We do not share raw IP data of download.
Because oftentimes that data is utilized for retargeting.
Retargeting.
Purposes. And that is what gets crosses into the freak zone.
Supposedly, the data only gets used by the person collecting. This is what I'm being told. So let's say Chartable is the attribution collector. They are paid by the advertiser or paid by the podcaster. Someone pays to be able to get attribution tracking. Right. And my understanding is that Chartable says they don't allow that data to be used for retargeting. They only send a report to the advertiser to see when there was a match was made. Now, Chartable does use a redirect, which probably means that they are collecting download information and using that raw IP data to do the attribution matching.
Right.
And supposedly, they're not selling that data or allowing that advertiser to take that data for retargeting, supposedly.
Right.
They talked a little, talked a little bit about RAD. So it just, so this is what, it's what's going on here is this guy, Brian, is trying to, he is being very aggressive and talking about certain things that he partially has understanding on. But, and I'm sure they're doing, again, it's part of the Sound Profitable newsletter that is part of Pod News, which, we're getting into a situation where you've got someone reporting news and then someone trying to make policy part of the same group. Well, what's going on there?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I just popped up my setup on my.
Oh.
So if people want to see how I have mine currently, as far as my studio setup with my monitors, my camera, and you can see where the lights are and my boom arm. So just
I see a Mackie. I see a Mackie mixer.
Yep.
I see no Macs.
You don't see any Mac. Yeah. True. I don't have a Mac in here, but I do have an iPhone. I get.
I do see an Amazon battery.
Alexa. Oh, yeah, battery, right. Yes.
They are the worst. The Amazon basic batteries are the worst. So, Robbie, did you try to get me off this conversation?
No. I just happened to find the picture. Figured I would share my side because you showed all your stuff.
So anyway, this is, I think, the same guy that's calling out Rob and saying we need to do more about privacy. So
right.
Anyway, so this was put out on September 29th. And so, no one has ever been able to tell me. No one has been able to tell me how they deliver a pixel via an audio file.
Yeah. Well, it's shoehorning banner track technology into podcast.
Which means they're collecting raw IP data.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah.
And, So that that data is very, 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 very valuable.
Yeah, and I suppose you are maybe opting into that on a web page.
Right. So
But
there was a
it's
question. Go ahead.
it's only going to give you just a sample
Yeah.
of activity around your show, though, not the complete data set.
So he says, so selling is talking about dynamic ad insertion and geo-targeting. So selling metros would be tough right now. No, actually not. It's selling metros is simple.
Right.
We track all the metro locations. I think it's 299 different areas. Metro is not, but no one's buying metro because it doesn't scale.
Right.
So they are doing geolock. Like we've got people that are using our service that only want the ads to be delivered in Canada. They don't want them to come out of Canada, or sometimes by a certain province. So certain provinces have French requirements. So I'm seeing more geolocking than I am seeing geo-targeting.
Right. I mean, a lot of the advertisers don't want to buy outside of the U.S. They don't want to pay for that traffic
Right.
for those audience members yet, and that's where the industry is evolving over. Hopefully, it will evolve more. But the other downside of advertising outside of the U.S., getting companies to buy ads into your downloads that are happening in the local country, is that the CPMs are still relatively low. So that's the industry has some work to do on that side to drive the value, and a lot of those economies, those countries may not be able to support high CPMs either. So that's the other reality.
So I was testing a tool last week. Can't say through who.
Yep.
But how many podcast advertisers do you think there are?
Total number?
Yeah.
My guess is probably be 1,000, maybe
Closer to 10.
10,000.
Closer to 10,000.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
That's an interesting number as you think about the scale
But
of this.
some of them only spent $1,000.
Okay. Small advertisers.
Yeah.
So how are they buying their campaigns? Do platforms like AdvertiseCast?
No. There's a lot
automation.
Of the information that I had access to. I would see that they would buy 3 shows, and or like one advertiser that I saw, one specific advertiser spent $500,000 advertising across 2 shows. $500,000. Spent $480,000 on one show alone, which was, to me, it blew me away. I sent them an email. It just and the show that they were advertising in, the ads were laced with the F word.
Really?
Laced with the F word.
Wow.
That's why I had.
That's a term that I haven't heard used around podcast. Laced with the F word.
Right. In other words, there was a proliferation of F words, or the F word.
Wow. They must have a very specific demographic to reach.
Yes, they did. And even more interesting is the podcast first word started with the word church, and that had me even more intrigued because it was church and a certain type of product, and I was like, no way. Is that product being advertised on a church podcast? Well, it wasn't a church. So, yeah. But it's, so, and now I have to decide whether I need to write the check to have continued access to that data, because it's not cheap. So, But
this medium never ceases to amaze me, Todd.
no, but I'm telling you, the intelligence that's being collected on who's running ads is pretty incredible. What's being done in tracking who's advertising where, how much they're
Well,
spending.
there's this, I don't know if you've talked to the Media Radar folks. That's exactly what they're doing.
Now, that was a tool I was using.
Was it?
Yeah.
Was the Media Radar folks?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, it was pretty impressive.
That's their whole deal, is track what the advertisers are doing.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you guys have I didn't see you guys on the list, so I don't think you have a subscription to that.
I don't have a subscription, but they've been after me for a long time.
So you know how much that costs. So
Yes, I do, and I wasn't willing to write the check. Sorry.
But I'm telling you, I shouldn't tell you, it's getting pretty good.
Oh, I know it's good. Believe me, I've seen all the demos, slide deck.
Yeah. Well, I just spent a week digging through it, but it's one of those tools where you say, okay, I'm going to write this check. Now can I pay for it?
Right.
Can I make
Can you
enough money
justify paying
can I
for it? Right.
justify paying for it? Yeah. So that's a discussion I'm going to have with my board of directors next week.
I don't know about you, Todd, but I get a steady stream of pitches on new services and platforms,
all the
data
time.
sources,
Yeah.
and it's like only absorb so much.
And I'm getting a lot of stuff coming out of Europe. A lot of stuff being developed in Europe for podcasting and for stuff that ties into podcasting and
Outside of, other countries around the world too. It's just.
but I'm behind on owing a company out of Israel, some feedback. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on.
Transcription companies
Oh,
there too.
My God, there are a dime a dozen now. There's 50 of them. And we all do it, and they all do it better.
Until you actually analyze their results.
Right.
That's where the rubber hits the road.
And what's funny is I use this show as I say, okay, go ahead and send me a transcription for this episode.
Right.
And then I do A/B comparisons and then I've actually had a company that they actually did a line or word by word true transcription. They gave me the actual where someone human did it, and then they showed me theirs, and then I compared it to something else I have access to, and I'm like, okay, 85%.
Right.
It wasn't 95 or 96,
So sometimes they will tell you they're 95, but when you actually analyze it,
Right.
it's not.
It's not. And when you have two people during a show, it's one person is easier than you and I, because in the back and forth.
And it's it varies a lot on accent, based on
how tired one is,
what the audio quality is, right? Crosstalk, all this. A lot of factors go into this.
Oh, here's something new. Someone on YouTube, Hasa Films, said Facebook does allow a super chat feature. Similar, you have to be lucky enough to reach a threshold for it. It's called Facebook Stars, and it's a form of highlighting one's comments to stand out in a busy live chat. Oh. And we also got a love mark from Podfriend. Our Podfriend folks are listening to the show today.
Oh,
so
cool.
Thank you for being here. So anyway, I guess, Rob, we're just about at the end.
Yep.
Who we pissed off today?
I don't think we pissed off too many people today. It was a good day.
Yeah.
We didn't piss anybody off.
So, are you available to go? I got to look at my calendar here. Not that one.
We're on the slate for Podcast Movement Virtual.
Okay.
For the 21st, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern time. So we can do a 2-hour show if we want.
Awesome. 7 to 9.
7 to 9.
Beautiful.
And we're one of only, I believe, 3 events going on for Podcast Movement Virtual that day.
Awesome.
So we're considered a special event.
All right. So it's on Wednesday, the 21st.
21st.
Yep.
7 to 9 p.m.
Okay.
And I am trying to round up a couple of guests for us.
Outstanding.
Always like to mix it up a little bit on these
Yeah.
live events.
What is our topic going to be? Are we going to make that up? Actually, we'll probably do a little prep for that show.
I think it depends on who I'm able to capture
Okay.
for the. But I'm gonna poke the bear a little bit.
Ooh, nice. So on this upcoming show on Wednesday of next week, Rob, can you go a little earlier by chance?
Next on Wednesday,
On the 7th, yeah.
7th. What time?
Well, I guess we'll talk offline, but a little earlier.
Like 3?
We already started at 3.
Oh no, that's right. You want to go 2?
If we can go 2, that would help me out. Instead of 3 o'clock, go at 2 o'clock on this upcoming Wednesday.
Did I go?
And that doesn't work. Well, so we can stick with 3.
I've got the Podcast Academy quarterly board meeting at 1:30 Eastern.
Oh, so you probably will. How long do you guys go? An hour?
Sometimes it goes longer than that.
Okay, we'll stay at 3 then. No problem.
Okay.
Yeah, no sweat. All right, everyone. I'm Todd at blueberry.com. And of course, my Twitter account is @geeknews.
And I'm on Twitter too, @Rob Greenlee. And I have a robgreenlee.com website, as well as you can send me an email if you want. robg@libsyn.com.
So if we gave any value today, we do have a PayPal link on the website. We do appreciate the occasional donation. That is much thankful for when those dues come in. And basically just goes to paying the streaming bill. So that's what it's used now. But other than that, thanks everyone for
that video download off of the video podcast.
It costs me $10 an hour to stream with these multicasts. So,
it does.
So
okay, through that.
Yeah.
That mixed streaming platform.
Yeah. Right? Yep. So, basically our live streaming cost per show, I get 10 hours, and then anything above that is $10 an hour. So this, $15 near the end of the month, it cost me $15 a show to stream it.
Oh,
so
okay. Yeah.
All right. So everyone, thanks for being here, and we'll see you on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern for another show.
West Coast.
There you go. All right. See you then.
All right. Okay.